Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Merry Christmas. Today is December 9th. It's about 4:45 p.m. Tuesday, December 9th. I think I already said that, but nonetheless, I'm saying Merry Christmas because here we are coming closer and closer and closer to actually Christmas Day. We're certainly in the holy day season. We just had Thanksgiving, which was fantastic around here. We had a whole lot of people. My son was home from Japan. Hadn't seen him in several years, but he was home from Japan. My daughter actually got married the day after, 2 days after Thanksgiving. My other daughter was in from Chicago, so the whole family was together. My 4 kids, my 3 grandbabies, all of us were together and with a lot of friends. We saw family. It was a great time. Busy, but a great time. We were busy with my daughter's wedding, and then, of course, Thanksgiving. And then on Sunday, we had our Christmas party at the church. We always have that somewhat early in the month because it gets so busy for us. We have another event at the church, a community event for Christmas. So yeah, needless to say, we're pretty busy. And then last night, we had an event at the church, the it's actually called AVRA, Antelope Valley Republicans Association Christmas party and meeting. That was at the church as well last night. So yeah, we've been very, very, very busy. Today was supposed to be my day off, and I was really looking forward to it, but then, of course, wasn't able to. But anyways, nonetheless, and then we're having Bible study tonight, which I'm really looking forward to. That we've been having some great Bible studies at the church lately. Actually, just great services in general. You know, we've been on Tuesdays. We've been studying the prophetic. Now, when I say the prophetic, a lot of people in the church automatically go to end time prophecy. We're going to study prophecy, and that means end time prophecy. Well, no. When you talk about the prophetic, we're talking about hearing and being directed and moved by God. And then we have some activations after that on practicing hearing the voice of God. Now, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. I've heard this all my adult life and ministry with people that are like the naysayers. You say prophecy, prophetic, and how can you train in the prophetic? Well, you can train in the prophetic just like you train anything else. We're not necessarily trying to train one another on how to hear God's voice. Because here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. Now listen to me before you turn it off or get all crazy on me. Every human being hears God's voice. All right? Every human being hears God's voice. You know, some call it conscience, some call it just imagination, creativity, whatever they call it. But we all hear God's voice in some manner, some way. What we are training to do and what the believer can do is to learn to distinguish God's voice from other voices. Now, when I say God's voice, yes, sometimes God can speak just the way I'm speaking to you, in a audible voice, a very coherent audible voice. But most of the time, he speaks to us he can speak to us in dreams, he can speak to us in visions, he can speak to us in thoughts, revelation. Like how many of you listening that are Bible readers read the Bible and then something just kind of leaps off at the page and becomes alive? You may have read that passage 100 times before, but this time around something just came alive. Well, that's God speaking to you. God gives visions. God gives what we just chalk up sometimes to his imagination. Now, I'm not saying every time you have a thought going through your head, it's automatically God. I'm not saying every time you hear an audible voice that it's God, because you're hearing an audible voice now, and believe me, I'm not God. So every dream that you have isn't necessarily God. But you see, that's what we're trying to, or that's what we're learning to do, is to distinguish God's voice from other voices, even including your own. God's thoughts from your thoughts, God's visions from your visions, all of those things. When I say visions, I'm talking more like the imaginations or whatever, So we're learning that. And actually, it's been very, very, very powerful. I mean, very, very powerful. So I'm very happy with the progress that everybody's making and the prophetic words and prophetic unction that's falling and people releasing those words. It's awesome. And then on Sundays, we've been praying for the sick. We've been prophesying. We've been ministering. And there's been a lot of miracles. A few weeks ago, we prayed in a general sense. It was just a general sense. And afterwards, I had several people come up to me right after the service and say, hey, God touched me. You know, the pain's not there, or this has changed, that's changed, you know, those types of things. And then in a few days afterwards, I was receiving messages like, wow, you know, I woke up the next day, all the pain is gone. I woke up the next day, my whatever it was, back, my leg, my neck, whatever, was completely healed. One of the things that I just so appreciate about the way God's moving at our church, GWCC, Greater Works Christian Church, is that those who are, what I would say, hard workers, are really moving ahead and moving upward powerfully and profoundly, getting raises and bonuses, new positions, new jobs, all of that, simply because they are working hard and trusting and believing in God, and God's blessing them. You know, I wish I could take credit for it. Well, I don't really. I just say that because, you know, that's what's expected. We said, I really don't want to take any credit because all the credit belongs to God. I mean, all of it belongs to Jesus. Really, he's the one doing it. Who am I? I'm a facilitator. I'm a steward of the house. But he is still the God of the house. And you know what? He's making it happen. So I really appreciate that. So to everyone that attends GWCC, you guys, I think the world of you. You're awesome. But to truly, and I don't want this to sound in any way like a cliche, but to Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Because I'm watching you bless the people of the church. I'm watching you heal them. I'm watching you set them free. I'm watching you increase them on the job and in the business world, heal marriages, increase their wages, and really bringing them into a true place of true prosperity on every level. Not just money, but that's part of it. But success on every level. And I'm really grateful for that, Lord, and I thank you for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are looking for a good church, maybe you're not looking for the church, but you know you got to get in one. Well, come and join us at GWCC, Greater Works Christian Church. We're in Lancaster, California, on L12 off of 20th Street West. We're pretty easy to find. If you know the Antelope Valley, you can easily find L12 and 20th Street West. Head towards the freeway on L12 off of 20th Street West. You can't miss us. We hope to see you there. 10:30 on Sundays and 7 p.m. on Tuesdays. But let me get into this. There's something that kind of caught my attention. I was flipping through Daily Wire app, and that's, what's his name? Who is that? Ben Shapiro. That's right. It's Ben Shapiro. He puts Daily Wire together. He's not the only writer. He does write and he speaks on there and such. But he has put this together, and it's an app. It's a news app, and it's more than a news app. Okay, and it's just more of conservative discussion points and such, talking about the news and some things that are going on in the news. And I want to read you this article. Now it says here it's only a minute long. You know me. I'm going to interject. It'll be more than a minute, but hey, we'll do it. Anyways, it says Georgia. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I remember this guy several years ago. Anyways, Georgia Democrat refers to United States as world's #1 bully, the great Satan. Now, this is a Georgia Democrat. Ladies and gentlemen, a Democrat from Georgia calls the United States of America your home, my home. He says we're the world's #1 bully, the great Satan. Now, again, I have to interject. That's just the title of this article, okay? Oh, and it's by Virginia Kruta. Hopefully I'm saying her name correctly. Virginia Kruta. It was published today, December 9th, 2025, and it claims to be a 1-minute read, but I think I already used up my 1 minute just going through the title. Anyway, so I just want to kind of put this against the backdrop of world events, all right? So here's a Democrat from Georgia. Oh, and by the way, his name is, it's Johnson, the last name. What's his first name? Oh, Hank Johnson, Democrat from Georgia, calls the United States of America, by the way, his home, the place where he resides, the place where he's most likely, I'm assuming, raised his family, married his wife, has a life, his own home, the United States of America, and the United States of America that has given him a job, a very well-paying job, a job with some clout. And he calls his own home, his own people, the great Satan and the world's number one bully. So the United States of America, that would include you and me, ladies and gentlemen, we are, by this Democrat in Georgia, we are the world's number one bully and the great Satan. Okay, now let's contrast that just briefly, real quick, against some other things that are going on in the world right now. You got the Gaza Strip. Remember those people in Gaza, the Palestinians and Hamas, who march into another country, Israel, right across the border. They sneak in, actually. They sneak in and start murdering entire families, raping women, killing them, and raping them in gang rapes in such a way that literally a woman's pelvic bone was split and shattered because of the violence of this gang rape. Okay, I don't really like to get too crude or too graphic on here, but this is just what happens. Okay, and it's part of our world. We have to discuss it. So wicked Islamists are raping women with such violent force that it literally destroys their bones in their bodies. They took infant children, put them in the oven, turned on the oven, and walked away for those little babies to be baked to death. Men were killed, families were killed. They took a bunch of hostages, and they kicked off this war, this skirmish, this war that left tens of thousands dead. And yet we're supposed to be what? What does it say? The world's number one bully? Well, Hamas is a pretty bad bully. We didn't do that. And it says the great Satan. We didn't do that. We didn't do that. I'm not laughing because it's necessarily funny. I'm laughing at the absurdity that somebody who gets their paycheck. So let me put it like this. Okay. So this guy, if he honestly assumes that America, the United States of America, is the world's number one bully and the great Satan, he's taking a paycheck from Satan. He's working directly for the world's number one bully. See, he doesn't believe this, ladies and gentlemen. Well, no, you know what? Let me take that back as well, because I forget who this guy was. I'll get to that in a minute. Maybe he actually does believe this, but can I just say this? And I'm just going to try to be real without. I don't want to be purposely offensive, but I have to be honest. This guy's a jerk and a moron. And anybody with this kind of, whether he believes this or not. And it's worse if he actually well, I don't know if it's worse or not now that I think about it, because if he actually believes this and he's saying that, it makes him one of the world's greatest liars and hypocrites. He should not be in our government. If he does actually believe this, then he should be in an institution, again, disqualifying him for working for the American people on any level. So no matter how you look at it, this guy is a dirtbag. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's not the Christian thing to say, but I'm not. I guess I could go to his office and flip over some tables, which I don't really mind. But let's face it, what he is doing is so dishonest, so deceitful, and so wicked and what a hypocrite to take a paycheck from the people he's calling number one bully of the world and the great Satan of the world, when there's nations and countries and people groups out there that are doing far worse. So wait, but there's more than just Hamas. What about the Muslims, the Islamists in Nigeria that are coming into these Christian churches, killing tons of people, burning the churches, taking hostages, and the world just turns the other cheek, especially the Muslim world. Let me ask you this. Has anybody, when the Islam does something wicked, evil like this, killing all these Christians in Nigeria, or coming into Israel, killing Jews in Israel, or any of these things, are there any other Muslim groups that condemn the violence of Muslims that are committing these atrocities? I know. There's some out there, some Muslims out there saying, well, that's the extremists. We're moderate. Okay, but I never actually heard them say what these extremists are doing is wrong or evil. They might try to distance themselves just verbally with some watered down, well, that, those are the extremists. I'm a moderate. Okay, Mr. or Mrs. Moderate, condemn it. Why isn't Islam? Why isn't the Muslims who claim to be the religion of peace, which it's not, why aren't they condemning what these Muslims are doing, all in the name of Allah, all in the name of Islam, murdering people? Anyways, that was just a side note. Maybe I'll do a podcast on that real soon, because I'm talking about this Hank Johnson, Democrat of Georgia, who calls you and me in our great nation the world's #1 bully and the great Satan, even though I don't remember the last time, and I'm not saying it's never happened, I just don't remember the last time, turning on the news and hearing that some Americans march across the border, maybe into Canada or maybe into Mexico, or they hop on a boat and scream across to maybe some Caribbean island, and then just start marching through the streets and going into, other religious buildings and just massacring the people in those buildings. I've never heard, I'm not saying Americans have their hands completely clean. Please don't misunderstand. But it's usually more of a personal thing on our home soil than a group going into another land and just randomly killing people because we don't like them. For instance, like, what would it be? Like a bunch of white Christians marching into somewhere in the Middle East and just killing them simply because they're Muslim? That's not happening, ladies and gentlemen. It's not happening. You know what we're doing? Do you know what these Democrats are so upset about? President Trump, Pete Hegseth, ordering the bombing of these drug boats that are speeding towards American land. So we put a nice, sweet little missile right through the hull of their boat, blowing it up and sinking them all to the bottom of the ocean. And these Democrats are coming unglued. They're coming unglued, saying, oh, that was a fishing boat. I saw the pictures, ladies and gentlemen. Now, you know what? I'm a fisherman. I like to go fishing, but I just don't do it that often. But I'm smart enough to know what a fishing boat looks like. And every video, every picture, everything that I've seen of these so-called fishing boats, there wasn't one fishing pole, fishing rod, or net. There wasn't any tackle boxes. There wasn't any, what do they call those, bait tubs? See, that's what I know. I'm smart enough to know what they are. I'm just not smart enough to even know what they're called. But I can still figure it out. They have the live bait wells. None of those on there. It's kind of a hollowed out speedboat with 3 to 4 high power, horsepower engines on the back, and they are racing. The last one I saw, I believe it was in the Gulf of America, and they were racing. Fishing boats don't race like that, ladies and gentlemen. They outrun the fish, and you're not able to catch fish if you're outrunning the fish. But these were racing, and you can clearly see the jugs and the barrels full of drugs that are on these boats. The only thing I'm kind of upset about, which I wish they would figure out how to do this a little bit differently, is, yes, blow them up, burn them down. But why are we making all the fish in the Gulf pay for this? I mean, can you think about a barrel full of drugs, all those crabs in there eating it, and then somebody's going to eat the crabs. Anyways, we'll talk about that later. Anyways, so let me get back to this. So it says Johnson first became, this is where I remember him from, ladies and gentlemen. This happened several years ago. Johnson first became a household name when he suggested, now listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. This is a Democrat representative from Georgia, Hank Johnson. Says Johnson first became a household name when he suggested that the Pacific island of Guam might tip over. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you heard that correctly. I actually watched, and this goes back several years, the video of where they were discussing putting more troops or something on the island of Guam. And he was worried that the island might actually flip over, that if they put too much weight on one end of the island, it would flip over, as if the island of Guam was just out there floating still. Just still, floating, not going anywhere, but just still floating. That if you put too much weight on one end of it, it's going to flip over an island. Johnson was concerned, a Democrat from Georgia, Hank Johnson, was concerned that an island would flip over. Ladies and gentlemen, I honestly, now I'm just going to be honest and real with this, because I don't know what is worse. Now I want you to think about this for just a moment. What is worse? Somebody, a representative of Georgia, all right? Representative of Georgia being so dumb, so ignorant of the way islands actually function and work, what makes an island, what doesn't make an island, all that he thinks that if you put too much weight on it, it's going to actually flip over an island. Flip over in the Pacific Ocean, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know which is worse. The complete and total ignorance on his part personally, or on the part of the people that voted for him. At least, more than once. Because that was, like I said, several years ago. Okay, maybe he can slip through the cracks on the first one, fool a lot of people. He looks good in the suit, wears the right tie, whatever. We got to vote for him. But then after that came out, somebody still voted for him to keep him in office because he's still around. And now the same guy that thought Guam, an island in the Pacific, could flip over if you put any more weight on it. Ladies and gentlemen, flip the island over. This is what this gentleman thought. Is now calling America the world's number one bully and the great Satan. He went from thinking islands can flip over to looking at what America is and what America is doing, and not really realizing that what we are doing is putting an end to the world's bullying, and that we are acting actually, there's that famous painting of Michael the Archangel with a spear like stabbing through Satan the dragon, all right? So we are acting in a very real way like that image of Michael the Archangel, shoving a spear right through the heart of the true Satan, the true dragon. And this guy is so mixed up. I mean, he thinks that Guam, an island in the Pacific, could flip over if you put any more weight on it, that he still has his mind and his head is still messed up. He still is backwards on these things. He's saying we're the world's bully, where we're actually the one putting an end to it. And he calls us the great Satan when we're actually the one with the spear through the heart of the great Satans. Ladies and gentlemen, can't make this up. So who is worse? Hank Johnson, Democrat of Georgia, or the Georgia voters that voted him in? I mean, honestly, think about that. And also think about that when you go to the voting booth. Again, this is off topic. I still got to get to my 1 minute reading here. We have the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, who has absolutely destroyed California. California is a mess. California is an absolute mess, especially if you want to do anything. If you're into building, almost impossible. Anything that you want to do on a real level is near impossible because of Gavin Newsom and his cronies. And now he wants to run for president. So anyways, who's worse? Gavin Newsom, the guy who's destroyed California and will destroy America given the chance, or those who vote for him? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't look as negatively at the politicians that are doing dumb things. Why? Because somebody voted for them. Enough people voted for them to put them in office. I look at the voters in a more, if you will, negative light than who they're voting for. We used to just want people to vote. Go out and vote. Go out and vote. Go out and vote. Be an American. Vote, 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 vote. Well, part of being American is not just voting. It's voting correctly. Voting for American values. Voting for those that will help make America great, not destroy America. Okay? And so whether it be Hank Johnson, Democrat of Georgia, or Gavin Newsom. Tom McDonald, you can go on YouTube and find out some of his songs and videos. Tom McDonald, he's a rapper. He he made a song just recently that Satan is a Democrat, and it's all about Gavin Newsom. And you know what? He's spot on. So what's worse, being the Satan or voting for Satan? I mean, think about that, ladies and gentlemen. We need to get ourselves together, American voters. We need to get ourselves together. Anyways, back to this. So Representative Hank Johnson, Democrat of Georgia, thinks or thought that Guam, an island in the Pacific, could flip over if you put any more weight on it. I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe I missed that in science class, in school or something. But the way I understand it, an island is kind of like a high spot, almost like a mountain sticking out of the water, and it's attached. It's attached to the we call it the ocean floor, but it's attached, and it's attached. It's not flipping over, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know. Anyways, has anybody ever heard of an island flipping over? If you have, please write me or something so I can know. Anyways, it says Representative Hank Johnson, Democrat of Georgia, reverted to the talking points favored by Iranian terrorists during a recent interview, referring to the United States first as the world's #1 bully and then the great Satan. See, that's what I wanted to get to. I took a little time getting here just because I was having fun and making some other points, but I want to get... So this Democrats' talking points are actually Islam's talking point when speaking about America. They call us the great Satan, even though they're chopping people's heads off. If they don't like you, you just chop your head off or put you in a cage and catch you on fire or throw you off the top of a building and watching your vitals splatter all over the ground at the bottom. They do what they call, what do they call those killings? Anyways, they'll kill their own family members. When a young girl gets raped, the girl usually gets punished with death, and the man gets a slap on the hand and is released. And they have the nerve, the gall, to call us the great Satan. That is absolutely wicked. Absolutely wicked. You talk about some people that are projecting their own wickedness onto somebody else. That's what Islam does. And here, this Democrat of Georgia has picked up what the Islamists do and now is doing the same thing. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot in any way, shape, or form trust on any level Democrats. Why? They're still voting. Anybody with the right mind votes for them. Well, I guess I answered my own question in saying that nobody with the right mind votes for them. And what's kind of gut-wrenching is that we have that, they keep getting elected, so we have that many people that belong in some kind of institution still out there voting. And what are they voting for? They're voting for this. Representatives who will pick up the talking points of wicked Islam and start calling us the same things that wicked Islam calls. And at the same time, take a paycheck from the greatest bully in the world and the great Satan. It's cool when they get their paycheck. Anyways, Johnson, continuing with this 1 minute reading, Johnson, who first became a household name when he suggested the Pacific island of Guam might tip over if too much American military equipment was placed there, made the comments while speaking with far-left host Dean Obiadala. Never heard of him before. Dean, hopefully I'm saying his name right, Obiadala. Johnson told Obiadala that the United States was the quintessential playground bully, lording it over other countries that had less power simply because it was possible to do so. We are the world's #1 bully, and we are using our immense, unrivaled power to rule over those who have less power, he claimed. Adding, this sends a shocking message to the world that America is indeed what did they used to call it? The great hand of Satan or something like that? Oh, you know exactly what they called it, what the Islamists, the Muslims called it. You know exactly. Because now, in one way or fashion or another, because you picked up on their rhetoric, the Democrats use that word a lot, rhetoric, shows that in some way you're in bed with them and you're at least in agreement with them. Sick. Anyways, I mean, America under the Trump regime is demonstrating that that moniker is entirely accurate. Whoops. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. My tablet just wigged out and said no internet connection, but everything's fine right now. Anyways, demonstrating that the moniker is entirely accurate. That's what we've become in this country. The great Satan, he continued. Johnson, during a congressional hearing about a military buildup on Guam, raised eyebrows when he suggested the added weight of the military equipment could cause the island to capsize. See, you know how whoever wrote this, and I agree with them, is playing that part up just to show how ignorant this gentleman is, so that when he comes along and says, "Oh, America, the great Satan, oh, we're the playground bully." Hey, he also said that an island can flip over. In other words, do not take anything that he says serious. My fear is that the whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize, Johnson said. Admiral Robert Willard, who was serving as head of the U.S. Pacific Fleet at the time, paused and managed to give his reply with a straight face. We don't anticipate that. Well, of course not. Of course not. I want to read some of the comments on this, because on Daily Wire you can add a comment at the bottom after these articles just to throw in your 2 cents and say, you know, what you want to say about it. So Trudy C. says this: "You can leave the United States at any time. I wish just once a journalist would say, what are you doing to make the United States a better place?" Another one, Grana Better? Okay, that's just their screen name. Nutcase. That's all Grana Butter said. RS Moon 68176. Okay. My failed Dem party, hijacked by people like these. My failed Dem, I'm assuming Democrat party, hijacked by people like these. HCCZ says this: long ago, Reagan gave a speech where he stated that the march of freedom and democracy will leave Marxism, Leninism on the ash heap of history. The American press dismissed the speech as wishful thinking. This crap about the USA isn't new. The leftist tendency of the press isn't new. It has simply been more recognized. And Toad Rainsford: Trump wants to outlaw shredded cheese. He wants to make America great. GRATE again. Okay, that was funny. Anyway, so again, ladies and gentlemen, I know I say this a lot, and it's not just because I'm on the conservative side. I'm on the conservative side, yes, but I'm on this conservative side. Why? Because, number one, I'm also a believer in Jesus Christ, and I love this nation. Okay? And the Republican Party at this time, is the closest party that can actually get elected, closest party to biblical standards and to the America that once was. I'm not saying the Republicans are perfect. I have a lot of problems with a lot of Republicans and a lot of things that they do and say sometimes. But like I said, it is the party, the political party that is closest to the Word of God, closest to the America that we used to be, and can still get elected. If that changes, I'm changing. Not because I'm fickle. I'm always going to stay with the Word of God, number one, Word of God, the Bible, and number two, the America that we're supposed to be. If the Republican Party changes those two things, then I'm changing, and I'll find the party that aligns with those two the most. You know, the Democrat Party, they do not look anything like the Word of God. Well, again, I'll take that back. They do, but all the negative parts, when like we're describing wickedness, evil, demons, Satan, they look like that, but they don't look like the good stuff. They don't look like the 10 Commandments. They don't look like thou shalt not kill, since they're killing babies. They don't look like, homosexuality and all that kind of nonsense associated with it is an actual abomination. They look like the opposite. They're going after it. They're promoting it. They're pushing it up, which shows that they are the party of wicked. You talk about the great Satan, it's the Democrat Party. Anyways, enough of that, ladies and gentlemen. I just thought that was funny. I wanted to share that with you because it's like, yeah, we have people in that represent us, and I'm not in Georgia, so when I say us, I just mean the American people that are honestly, and I hate to say it like this, I'm not trying to be rude, I'm just being honest, that are really that dumb. And he needs to be fired. He actually needs to be resigned, but he doesn't have it in him to resign. So he needs to be fired. Certainly not elected again, but he needs to be fired. And then, I don't know, maybe somebody who really has his best interest in heart, sign him up for some night school, adult school or something, and get him in there to get an education, and let him first start in, what would that be? Geography, geology, islandography, whatever class that is, that where he can learn that the islands, including Guam, they don't flip over. They're not just floating around there. They're attached to the bottom. They're attached, and they don't flip over. He needs to learn that. And he still won't be qualified to lead the people of America, but those are things that are so basic and simple, and people voted for that. That's the scary thing. And they walk among us, ladies and gentlemen. They walk among us. I think that was the name of a movie where the guy had those cool sunglasses that when he put on the sunglasses, or maybe it was when he took them off, but nonetheless, he could see that the people around him were actually aliens. They were aliens mixed in with the people, and it had something to do with those sunglasses. We need some of those sunglasses so that we can know who the real demon craps are. Throw on those sunglasses. Oh, man, there's a guy that thinks islands flip over. He must be a Democrat. Oh, there's a guy that thinks America is a great bully, the greatest bully in America. Must be a Democrat. Oh, that guy over there, he thinks that we're the great Satan. He's quoting the Islamists that want to destroy us. He's quoting the Islamists that want to destroy us. Ladies, must be a Democrat. Well, yeah, they are. You're never going to find a conservative quoting wicked people like that. And think it's a good thing. Anyways, here's another one that I just want to touch on. Maybe I'll read the whole thing because this is actually a little bit longer. It says it's a 3-minute read. But the subtitle says, Florida brings down the hammer on medical groups that pushed trans procedures on children. And this, I have to say, on one hand, I'm really grateful. Thank you, Florida, for doing this. On the other hand, the question I have for all of America, what took so long? I mean, honestly, you got some pervert doctor, pervert medical group, pervert doctor that doesn't have a problem with mutilating children, cutting off their parts, reworking them so they look like the parts of the opposite sex. I mean, that's the greatest perversion that I can think of. And you have these wicked doctors doing that, making a lot of money doing that. What took so long for them to have the, as it says here, hammer brought down? I don't care if it's a doctor, a nurse, an entire medical group, a so-called hospital, surgical center. They need to be out of business completely. And actually, they all need to be behind barns, maybe behind the barn too, but behind bars, certainly. They need to be brought to justice. This article, again, came out today, December 9th, 2025, by Leif Mahieu, Mahieu. That's his last name. It says the organizations replaced truth with political activism. Florida took legal action on Tuesday against a trio of medical organizations that promote transgender procedures on children. You see, that's so wicked. On children. So evil. They're doing this on children. The Daily Wire has learned it. Republican Attorney General James Uthmire filed a suit against the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, the Endocrine Society, and the American Academy of Pediatrics over their support of transgender procedure on kids. The suit accuses the organization of pushing irreversible medical procedures on gender-confused children for financial benefits. You see, that's all it is. It's a power grab and a money grab at the expense of children who are just confused. I heard somebody say just recently there's no such thing as transgender children, but there is such thing as children that are confused because of some sick, perverted adult fed them a load of lies. And that I agree with. There are no true transgender children, just confused kids. And what makes them confused? The adults in their world. And then you have some medical group like this that will start cutting them up, slicing and dicing for what? For money. Irreversible damage to these children, physically, mentally, emotionally, certainly spiritually, in that sense. For what? For money. To me, it's disgusting. Disgusting. For years, these groups insisted the recommendations were settled science, but behind closed doors, they knew the evidence was weak. Uthmai said in a video shared with the Daily Wire, they knew the outcomes were uncertain and the risks were real. Parents were not told the full story. In fact, some parents were told that if they didn't put their kids through permanent life-altering sick procedures like double mastectomies and castration, their child would commit suicide. Not only is that unethical and dangerous medicine, but it is against the law. Isn't it interesting that you have some adults in a room telling other adults, if you don't do this to your child, if you don't cut off his his manhood, or cut out, root out, alter what makes that girl a girl, if you don't, and this is going to change them for the rest of their life, if you don't do these things, they could, there is a chance they might commit suicide. So they're lying to the parents, deceiving the parents, putting the parents in a state of panic and fear, because nobody wants their child to commit suicide, talking the parents into putting these children through these life-altering situations and surgeries, through lies, deceit, deception, this gaslighting, this manipulation, this guilt over what might happen. Do I blame the parents? Yes, I do. I do blame the parents. But I also blame, even more in this sense, these paid professionals that should know better, just looking for a quick buck, mutilating children. Children, ladies and gentlemen, children. We're not talking about a 20 or even 30-year-old adult. We're talking about children. What constitutes a child in the United States? Someone younger than 18. So usually when they hit like 16, 17, in situations like this, not always, in situations like this, they sometimes no longer refer to them as children, because they figure, well, maybe at 17 years old, they got their faculty, they can think this through, it's their decision, whatever. So possibly this is somebody that's even younger than, say, 16, 15 maybe, or even younger, but these are still children. They are children. These people are children. And these doctors and these medical groups are convincing parents to get their children, their kids, mutilated in an irreversible way because of some confusion. Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever been confused about anything? I know I have. One time I was driving and I thought I was on the right road, going the right way, and I was confused. I could not find my turn that I swear was just right there. It was supposed to be right there, but there was no turn. There was no right turn. I was supposed to turn right there, but there's no right turn. I was so confused. What's going on? In a state like that, when something of that comes up, I'm certainly glad that these medical doctors, or this medical group wasn't around, because I'm afraid that if I had asked them, hey, look at medical doctor, I'm a little bit confused about which way I don't know which direction I'm supposed to go. Which direction am I supposed to go in? I thought I was going the right way, but I'm so confused right now. I'm afraid that they would, prescribe me some weird pill or some medical procedure, cut pieces of my body off that I kind of grown attached to. Maybe, frontal lobotomy or a rear lobotomy. I don't know. And all I needed was just to get on the right track again and have somebody point me out in the right way. Now, I know I'm having fun with this and I'm exaggerating a little bit, but honestly, am I? Am I? These children are confused about who or what they are. And what does this medical group want to do? I know what will make you better. Let me cut that little thing off. Boink. And I will no longer call you Jimmy. I'm going to call you Sally. So we'll cut that off and call you Sally. You're going to be fine. Ladies and gentlemen, do you really honestly think for just a moment that that's fine on any level? That really works? That's really fine? No, it's not. It's sick and it's disgusting. It really is sick, and it really is disgusting. And I am so glad that somebody's, going after these people. But, the question I have, and not so much for them because they're doing something about it, but the rest of the country, what's taking all so long? These people should all be behind bars. I mean, come on, Gavin Newsom and the Democrats let all these crooks and criminals out of prison. We've got plenty of room for a new set of crooks and criminals. These transgender, surgery, medical group, and doctors, they all belong behind bars, and now we have room for them. Isn't that cool? Whoa. I have an idea. Let's fill those prisons back up, but now with these sick perverts that are wanting to cut parts and pieces off of our children, all to make a buck and push an agenda that's wicked and evil and sick. Anyways, I'm just going to stop right there because I can keep going and going and going and going because this kind of stuff it frosts me. Actually, it gets me hot under the collar, and I just want to go off on these people. So it's safer for me and probably all of society to just sit behind this mic than actually go out and do something because it makes me that mad. And it really is a sick perversion that's been pushed off on our children and all of our culture and all of our society. And, I never stood for it, but now I'm really going to make my voice heard on these types of things because I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired over the perversion thrust on our children, our grandchildren, and our society. Anyways, with that one, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to check out. I got Bible study in just a little bit. I just wanted to come on here because, again, I have my frustration. I wanted to give you my daily rant, and that's it for now. So you all have a great Christmas. It's coming up in just, a couple of weeks, I think. Have a phenomenal, fantastic Christmas. For those of you who don't have a home church or maybe don't go too often, please find a great church. This weekend, find a great church. If you're in the Lancaster, Palmdale area, we have people that drive in sometimes more than an hour to get to us because they just have a great love for the church and we have a great love for them. So we're in Lancaster, California on L12 West off of 20th Street West. When you get to, when you're on 20th Street West and you get to L12, head towards the freeway. And we're just about a block down. Can't miss us. Our services are Sunday at 10:30, Tuesday night Bible study 7. Please join us. Those who don't have a home church, that's really sad and it's heartbreaking. But especially when you don't have a home church around the holidays and the holy days are upon us. And so please come and join us or join a church. Please go to church, find a good Bible preaching church, and get locked into the family. That's so important. Get locked into the family. It'll do you a lot of good, do your family a lot of good. So get locked in and really have a family within the family or outside of the family, but a family. So God bless you all. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. And yes, I'll even say happy holidays because holiday, it really comes from the word holy day. So happy holy day. And there's only one that can make holy. That's Jesus Christ. God bless you all.
Demon crafts are perverts.
Thank you for joining us at Table Flippers. Table Flippers Podcast is a ministry of Greater Worst Christian Church in Lancaster, California. You can find us on the web. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. Look for us at Greater Worst Christian Church or Table Flippers. I hope to see you soon.